right, good afternoon, folks. This is Frank Abbruzzino with the Francesco Abbruzzino News and Talk Show live. I'm coming to you today, this lovely Wednesday, the 5th of March. I've noticed I'm having some bandwidth issues, and I think if you could just bear with me, I'm with Fios. I'm supposed to be getting 50 meg, but it's not cutting. It seems to die right when the kids get home around this time, 3 o'clock, every day. So I think I'm going to switch to Comcast, which has 100. But in the meantime, bear with it. Let's see. First of all, sponsorships. If you're interested in sponsoring, just give me a shout out at fabbruzzino@yahoo.com, and we'll talk sponsorships. Today we got a few things we're going to be covering. The call-in number is 941-584-4874. We're live from 3 to 5. I just came off from doing my local news show at 12 to 3, and I'm ready to go. I thought we'd start off with, like I always normally do, a few things in case you're new to the show. I'm doing all the editing, the researching, the technical end of it, and the hosting. So bear with me if I seem distracted at times. And we always start off or end with somewhat of an inspirational video. So I thought I found a video, and I thought we'd play this one to get you guys going, a little inspiration to start our talk show off. So here we go.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Is temporary. It may last for a minute, or an hour, or a day, or even a year. But eventually, it will subside, and something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it will last forever.
The margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves, and I tell you, you can't. You want something? Go get it. Period.
Don't be afraid to fail. You can't always win, but don't be afraid of making decisions.
You have to believe that something different can happen. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right.
That most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it. You don't want it badder than you want to party. You don't want it as much as you want to be cool. Most of you don't want success as much as you want to sleep.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Deep down, ask yourselves, who do you want to be? Figuring out for yourselves what makes you happy, no matter how crazy it may sound to the people.
Make a choice, right? Just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide.
Why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league? I don't see why can't I do that?
What you said to the kid, it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you
stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell.
Okay, there's another 2 minutes in that. I just thought it was an inspirational video. I would have loved to watch the whole 6 minutes. I don't want to bog you guys down with that video. And if you want to see it, it's on my Educate, Inspire, and I can't even remember the name of my Facebook page, but everybody knows about it. Go there and check it out and watch the full 6 minutes. I like it because that's the motto I basically live by. I remember when I was 13, living in Roseville, just outside of Detroit. I was a new kid on the block. I was 120 pounds of nothing. And Leonard Pasco, guy was about 200 pounds, 6'2". You know, I'm about 5'10". I was about 120, real skinny kid. And I did something in my being funny, like I always am. And we ended up getting in a fight. And the kid beat the heck out of me for about, I don't know, 15 minutes it seemed like. Finally, some construction workers came over and broke it up, but he kept knocking me down. I kept getting back up. He knocked me down. I kept getting back up. And, you know, he's like, man, the construction guys were like, why didn't you just lay down? Why didn't you stop? And it's just not in me to do that, no matter if I'm getting the heck beat out of me or what. It goes from my business that I started. One thing, my business, it's medical billing consulting. It's grown in somewhat in different directions, but I remember my wife said, oh, you can't do that. And that's one thing I don't like is when someone tells me I can't do it. So I got to prove them wrong, go out and do it. And that was 13 years ago, and success. Sales, GTE, prior life, my wife said, you can't do sales. So I said, oh, yeah. So I went out and I did commercial sales. I ended up being the best in Florida 5 years in a row, like #4 in the nation for GTE. So it's like this show. People say, you know, and I'm trying to instill this upon my daughters is go for what you want. Don't let people tell you can't do it. You need to go for what you can. You may fail. I've failed at many things, but you got to get back up and go after your dreams or whatever you're trying to achieve. This show, you know, people say, oh, you can't do a radio show. Why not? I'm going to do a radio show then, and that's why I'm doing this. I don't care if it's 1 viewer or 20 viewers. In 5 years, it may be 100,000 viewers. I don't know, but I'm going to try and go for it. I may fail, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to get back up and go like I have on many other things. So hopefully there's a lesson to be learned there for some of our younger people, maybe even some of the older people out there. As everybody knows, the last 2 shows I've been covering our Constitution, you know, and the amendments, because I feel like the government has taken too many advantages of us, being the city, local governments, county, our police force, and a lot of the different entities out there. So I thought, hey, I'm going to educate everybody on our freedoms and the abuses that they're taking. And we went from the First Amendment with the freedom of speech yesterday. Or no, that was gun control yesterday. Freedom of speech was the day before. Now the Third Amendment, but this isn't a big amendment. It's not really violated that much. The government cannot force citizens to house soldiers in their homes. The founders brought with them a legacy of guarding their homes against what they saw as an unreasonable and tyrannical intrusion. There's not a lot of this that's happening, and the only case that I could think was close to it. A lot of people say it's a Fourth Amendment issue under warrants and unfair seizure and stuff, but I think it's more of a Third Amendment issue. And this was with a house. It was up. I should have printed the article, and I had it, and I accidentally tossed it out today. A lady was in her house. SWAT team came in and took over her house, and trying to get what they thought was a gunman or something next door at the house next to her. So she was kicked out basically for a few hours. And ends up that house was empty and nobody was even in there. You know, in my mind, that's government forcing the citizen to house the soldiers. Now, that can be construed in different manners, and it says the Supreme Court has never directly addressed the meaning of the Third Amendment yet. There is a case of Griswold versus Connecticut in '65 where the court cited the Third Amendment as part of the Bill of Rights that evidences zones of privacy and constitutional rights to privacy. And, you know, no idea who that is calling me. We're going to cover a few different privacy issues later down here. As you guys know, privacy is a major concern of mine from the cameras. And I just tell you what, we'll save that and get into it. So Anybody want to talk about the Third Amendment? 941-584-4874. The next thing we're going to cover is Lois Lerner. Lois Lerner should be a household name, right? Well, it's not, probably. She is basically the person that was running the IRS show. She came on and took the fifth and wouldn't testify. Isa wanted to get her back there, and Isa reassured Lerner would be testifying during a appearance on the Fox show Sunday. Now, despite being subpoenaed, Lerner's attorney is telling Politico that she will not testify and will continue to exercise her right to plead the fifth, as she did last summer when called to testify over the IRS scandal. For months, there's been rumblings that she would testify if she was granted some kind of immunity, but it's not going to happen. It was an interesting, because I watched the video a little bit where Isa came on, and I was going to show it, and I decided not to. Isa was up there, and they were having their House committee meeting, and he said, hey, look, Lerner's not going to come. She's going to plead the fifth, so we're not going to do it. And they had a Democratic representative up there. The meeting was adjourned, and he got upset that he couldn't speak. And Isa was like, go ahead and speak, but it's adjourned. It's over with. You know, if you want to make political brownie points, go out and talk to the press. You don't have to do it here. But the guy decided to rage on there, and he said it was a witch hunt, which was almost comical, because, you know, I don't know if I would construe the Republicans trying to get down to the bottom of the IRS targeting the Tea Party. Mind you, there were no liberal nonprofit companies that were targeted, as a witch hunt. Well, what say you? 941-584-4874. Obama's released his new budget yesterday for $56 billion in new spending. It's going to increase the spending at a time when I would think we wouldn't want to increase the spending, while offering a rosy projection. The nation is now on track to cut deficits below 2% of the economy over the next decade. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the video first, and then we'll cover it. This is from a local station, WTSP, and let's go to that now. Oops, wrong one, wrong screen. And all right, like I said, a local station, WTSP, they're out of Tampa, but they also have a Sarasota location, and they're going to cover the Obama budget. And I have some other numbers. Let me see, because it might take a while over that bandwidth issue. Basically, oh, here, let me click start. Okay, basically, another commercial. Okay, 12 seconds. Obama's expected to downplay the deficit cutting this year and offered a budget that will be far palatable for Democrats because they're running for re-election. Here we go. All right.
It's about our values. As a country, we've got to make a decision if we're going to protect tax breaks for the wealthiest Americans, or if we're going to make smart investments necessary to create jobs and grow our economy and expand opportunity for every American. At a time when our deficits are falling at the fastest rate in 60 years, we've got to decide if we're going to keep squeezing the middle class, or if we're going to continue to reduce the deficits responsibly while taking steps to grow and strengthen the middle class. The American people have made clear time and again which approach they prefer. That's the approach that my budget offers. That's why I'm going to fight for it this year and in the years to come as president. All
right. You know, the guy's an excellent speaker, but he's full of crap on most stuff. Sorry about that. So, you know, they just lost they can't account for $9 trillion that the Federal Reserve's misplaced. They just spent $5 billion, which I'll cover in a little bit, where Victoria Nuland released that on a taped phone call to the opposition to the Ukrainian government, and they fomented that whole uprising, basically funneling the money into there. So, you know, they're spending this money everywhere like crazy, yet they want to tax more people, and you know the whole story. So let's go into it. Basically, for half the new spending, by implementing new rules that would cap tax-preferred savings on retirement funds for individuals who have already accumulated enough to finance an annual income of $200,000. again, attacking the rich. And I don't even know if that's rich. $200,000 a year, given 20, 30 years, is not going to be a lot of money, folks. The rest would be paid for through a series of spending changes, including reducing subsidies to the federal crop insurance program. And just remember, when you reduce these types of subsidies, which they did, you get increases somewhere else. I'm not sure which subsidy was decreased for the flood insurance. No, well, that's it. They weren't subsidizing the insurance companies on the insurance. They dropped that down, and the insurance passed it on to the consumer. So even though they're going to cut the spending here, the consumer is still going to pay for it somewhere. They cut the subsidies on, or they increased the subsidies. Actually, they decreased the subsidies on the farm bill, and they made some type of low interest loans available. But to cover that, they cut the entitlement, the Medicaid entitlement, significantly by, I think it was $90 a month for an average family. So again, it's all great that they're sitting here saying we're going to cut the subsidies, we're going to raise the TSA passenger fees on commercial air travel, $5 billion. That impacts the common folk. And preventing individuals from collecting unemployment insurance and disability insurance at the same time. That's $3 billion. So those are the three approaches that he's hoping to make up this money, but it's all going to hit you somewhere else, folks. So don't be naive and buy into this argument that, oh, we're making these cuts so we'll be able to afford money there. All they're doing is allocating the debt over somewhere else. Defense. Obama set the Pentagon budget at $495 billion, which is roughly about the same amount of money. And that's what's strange about that is that's even though Chuck Hagel, the defense secretary, said he's going to try shrinking. But I don't think the shrinking is happening until 2019. Expanding EITC. Obama wants to expand their earned income tax credit from 13.5 million low-income Americans by closing tax loopholes benefiting certain fund managers and high-income self-employed workers. The budget includes $302 billion over 4 years to repair dilapidated roads and bridges. Obama will pay for these projects through $150 billion in temporary revenues that will be generated by ending some tax breaks for businesses as part of the corporate tax reform. Manufacturing hubs. They're going to look at that in early childhood, universal pre-K, expanding the Head Start, which provides early childhood education for low-income families. They're going to do that through increasing a tobacco tax. But all that is babysitting. I don't get that whole thing, the pre-teen stuff at 5 years old. It's just an excuse just to get in there and do some babysitting for the low income, so that they don't have that burden placed upon them. All right, this next one we're going to just watch this video. This is unique. I'm really into the pyramids and archaeology and all that stuff. And this is a new pyramid that was discovered in the Crimea region. So let's watch the video real quick, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it. If you guys want to talk about the budget or this Crimea thing, you call after the video, 941-584-4874. Here we go. Well, you know what? With my low bandwidth, we won't go too quick. And here we go. We're not going to watch it all, folks. Okay, so Crimea. Again, this is on my Educate Inspire page. Crimea may be ringing a bell to you because that's where the Russia just went in and took over that territory from the Ukraine after the global unrest that was occurring there. They said they discovered the oldest pyramid in the world back from the dinosaur ages in Crimea, 201 to 3 million years ago. It was revealed by ancients during a test alternative methods finding water. They were trying to find some water underground, and they were running these, echo tests, and they came up with it and found it. They said it's a lot like the Mayan pyramids, which you saw basically what they think it looks like in the video. Hollow inside with the mummy sarcophagus in there. And it's an interesting note down here. Last night, I'm sort of a geek. I was watching Einstein. It was on from 8 to 10 o'clock. I think it was on H2 or something like that, history or something. And I remember listening how he wanted to go to Crimea to prove his theory. And they noted on here, Crimea is also where Einstein's theory of special relativity was set to be proven by photographing, I can't speak today, starlight bending around the sun during the first eclipse. And let's see, by chance scientists came across the super high frequency radiation, which source was enigmatic, localized near the Earth's surface. So interesting stuff there, folks. Before the dinosaurs, a lot of people are saying, well, how did we have the knowledge back then? So a lot of interesting stuff. If you ever watch Ancient Aliens, they bring a lot of interesting questions up, which nobody has a good answer to, but they're always interesting to watch, right? So this next one is something I saw when I was at the YMCA this morning. I was watching Fox News on while I was running, and they had an interesting story about a union, and basically this lady had just some union members, but they wanted it to be all of their union members that were working on this. I think it was a hotel or an apartment, and they decided to start harassing by hitting them, just doing all kinds of stuff, bullying them, harassing them. There's nothing they could do because there's a law in Philadelphia basically stating that unions can harass you, bully you, do whatever they want, and there's nothing wrong with it. So I thought it was interesting, and we could talk about this, the unions, and I remember I took business law. We discussed unions a lot when I was in University of Maryland. Lots to discuss there. So let's go ahead and let's watch that video. And I think this lady has a website that's called Philly Billy, or Philly Bully, is it? Philly Bully.
The numbers tell the story. Florida unemployment.
All right, once again, another commercial. You gotta love that. But that's basically they were out there saying, look, you got to only use union employees and nobody else. And until you do that, we're going to continue harassing you. So she's going to court. She's trying to change the laws right now. Charlie Chris ran away. All right. And funny, you wouldn't expect to see that on Fox, right? Nah. All right, here we go, folks.
Meanwhile, in other news, an executive at a construction company in Pennsylvania and her family are being stalked and harassed by union members in Philadelphia. It's completely legal. Serena Rose refuses to use union workers to renovate an apartment building and is constantly bullied on her way to and from work. But because of a little-known Pennsylvania law that protects labor groups, they cannot be stopped legally. Serena Rose is trying to bring that to an end. She joins us live right now from Philadelphia. Good morning to you, Serena.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so your company was renovating this place, and you had some union labor on hand to do it, but they really wanted it to be 100% union guys and gals on the site. So what did they start doing?
That's correct. We had 4 union contractors actively working on the site. We received increasing pressure to commit to 100% union, which we couldn't and wouldn't do. We hired an open shop contractor to construct a small model unit in the building, and all of the union subcontractors that we had hired walked off the job. it resulted in an impasse, and we felt that we had no choice but to continue on with open shop contractors.
Which seems completely fine and fair. But then the union guys didn't like that, and they started coming after you. And it apparently is absolutely condoned by Pennsylvania law.
Yes, hundreds of contractors protested the site, or protesters came to the site. A daily day in the life of the site included, welded nail balls, disabling vehicles, guys, a couple incidents where, guys were chased with a crowbar. Some were actually hit. There was an incident where a contractor was trying to just get into the site, and he was pinned between a fence and a wall, and he was, just repeatedly crushed until he fell to the ground. A lot of these incidents are on our website, phillybully.com, and they're quite violent.
Absolutely.
There was one incident
Plus,
with me as well.
in addition, Serena, they've been harassing your children. They're trying to make a point. Use union labor. You refuse to do that. So what do? You took all the information, and as it turns out, the cops' hands are tied, and the courts can't do anything because, according to the Pennsylvania Crimes Code, and we're going to put up this full screen, laws on harassment and stalking and threat to use weapons of mass destruction have this clause: this section shall not apply to lawful conduct by a party to a labor dispute. Okay, and what they consider lawful conduct is if it's involving a labor group, the state law protects them from harassment claims. Where'd that come from?
We're not really sure. I don't even believe the legislators are sure. I testified before the House Judiciary Committee, and they were perplexed as well. I think the spirit of the law, hopefully that there was good intentions, but clearly it's being used in an improper way.
Absolutely.
It can't continue. We need.
Okay, so what say you on that one, folks? 941-584-4874. I think it's a bit antiquated law. It's like a lot of laws that are out there where they pass this legislation that's 20 years later might be obsolete, or it's just ridiculous legislation that they'll pass and it's on the books. In no way should a labor union get a waiver on being able to harass people. That sounds like something that probably came out in the 30s when the unions were just coming about, or 20s, whenever it was, and they were being harassed mainly by the larger corporations. But who in God's name would give a labor union the right to go out and harass people and bully people, beat the heck out of people, and not have any legal issues with that? No. So it just doesn't make sense. Hopefully they'll get that turned around. The next story is on the spoiled brat and school entitlement, or kids that believe they're entitlements. Good news for parents. See what the judge told a spoiled teen when she moved out and sued her for college tuition. This is a young lady. She moved out of her house because she didn't want to live up to the rules that her parents established. And they said, well, you're 18. You don't like our rules. Get the heck out, and we're done with it. Rachel Canning's parents, though, say she left the home last year on her own accord. As a result, they stopped paying her private school tuition and took away the car they paid for while she has continued to live with a friend's family. Tuesday, the judge ruled against forcing Canning's parents to pay weekly child support and put the decision regarding college tuition for a hearing next month. Obviously, there's deeper issues here if they're not wanting to pick up the college tuition. They say that she was upset. Basically, she wants $650 a week for child support and pay the remaining year of high school tuition as she requested by the lawsuit. The judge basically came in and said, hey, look, we don't want to establish precedents where parents live in basic fear of establishing rules in their house. This girl was an honor student. She was kicked out. And basically, she was kicked out for, here it is, daughter voluntarily left the home because she didn't want to abide by reasonable household rules, such as being respectful. Yeah, who wants to do that? Keeping a curfew. Yeah, she probably wanted to go out and party. Doing a few chores. Yeah, you know what, Dad? You're taking care of my car, my school. You're giving me a weekly allowance. Why should I do any chores? That's ridiculous. I fight that battle daily with my 2 daughters. And ending a relationship with a boyfriend that her parents thought was a bad influence. You know, I don't know. That one's a little sketchy. I don't know if, you know, I'm not going to like, I'm sure, a lot of the kids that my 2 daughters go out with. And I'm probably most definitely will sit there and say, I'm not a fan of this guy. But you're not going to be able to stop him. All you're going to do is alienate your kids and pull them further away from you. So that's a tricky slope. Next, we're going to talk legalized marijuana, which is coming to Florida, 941-584-4874. Basically, Morgan & Morgan spent about $4 million. He's a local, state attorney throughout the state. I think his brother was paralyzed in an accident, and he uses marijuana to soothe the pain. And so he has been pushing for this new legislation. There's basically 2 bills to legalize the recreational use of marijuana by adults have been filed in Florida. If passed, Senate Bill 1562, which is sponsored by a Democrat, would allow 21 or older to cultivate 6 marijuana plants and legally possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana. So this is the recreational one. This isn't a medicinal one, which is Morgan's behind. Would also create a regulatory system to oversee the sale of taxation of marijuana and change the name of the ATF to the Alcohol, Tobacco, Marijuana Department of Alcohol Beverages. The companion bill, House Bill 1039, was filed by Rep. Randolph Bracey, a Democrat from Orange County. The legislator is considering 2 separate proposals to allow medical marijuana in the state. Senate Bill 962, along with identical companion legislation of 859, would create a comprehensive medical marijuana program in the state, similar to a proposal being presented to voters in November. That's the one Morgan got on there. Would specify tight state regulations for doctors to prescribe marijuana for treatment in conditions like cancer, HIV, ALS, and other serious afflictions. The second option would be to allow a high CBD strain of cannabis to give the children suffering from severe epilepsy or other illnesses. Right now, they've looked at the polls on these belts, and they're polling pretty good, really strong for the medicinal. So I do think that's something that's going to pass. I know the local sheriff has concerns about some of the crime that it may bring into town. Some people are viewing it as an opening to get recreational marijuana, so they have that concern. And they're also concerned about medical marijuana and potential abuses, not unlike what you have now with Oxycontin, for example. Oxycontin is a legal drug if it's prescribed to you, and it's being abused all over the place. So they said, hey, look, basically they're saying, and they got a good point, if they can abuse Oxycontin pills everywhere, what's the difference with the marijuana? A top drug enforcement admin official said that it insults our common values. Marijuana destroys lives, families, undermines the economy, and insults our core values. Democrat Steve Cohen said that single. That's all right. So basically, what the DA is coming out saying that many parents are against this, which I'm assuming, as a parent, I'm pretty much drug free and alcohol free and everything. So as a parent, I'm not for it. I don't want to see my daughter out smoking a joint. And if I ever do, I'll probably grab her by there and drag her into the house. But I'd like to see people, if it does help them medically and they relieve pain and helps with these different diseases, these different afflictions, then I'd like to see it pass. So I'm sort of on the wall there. We got a few Obamacare things today. There were a few products that came out. One I know all about. It's the ICD-10 DX code. So we're going to cover that, but this one just came out just before, and it's basically on Ezekiel Emanuel, doctor. I put out something yesterday with him where he's saying basically insurance is gone, and there's this new platform, and this is the way they have to go, or they're going to be lost in the wayside insurance companies are. So he said he's an architect of Obamacare. He was on an interview with Bill O'Reilly from Fox. And he said, so if your kids have a sore throat and you want to find out if it's strep throat, or your kids has what appears to be an ear infection and you want to find it out, you really don't need to go to a pediatrician. He said, you can just go to a clinic. But then that's when O'Reilly said, wait a second, you can do that, yeah, but they're not doctors, are they? And Emanuel said, well, you don't need a doctor for every part of your health care. O'Reilly said, if I want a strep throat diagnosis, I don't want Lenny, who just came out of the community college, to diagnose me. And that's when Emanuel said, excuse me, they're nurse practitioners, and a lot of nurse practitioners are pretty smart, pretty intelligent, they know how to diagnose this stuff. O'Reilly said he's also worried about privacy when it comes to electronic records. And he quoted TMZ offers somebody like $5,000 to get a famous person's medical records. That looks very attractive to people. But yeah, the architect of Obamacare basically came out and came out and stated that you do not need a medical doctor for every diagnosis. Amazing there. I'm sure a lot of doctors may disagree with him on that. All right, so Obamacare. As everybody knows, Obama's putting off another waiver so that I think the deadline for keeping your existing policies or something like that was in a few months. Well, he's waiving that and saying we're going to extend it, and he's doing that primarily because several Democrats are up for re-election, and that's a hot, sticky point. Why? Because across the nation, many people are like Texas, where in a recent poll, 9 out of 10 people, Texas voters want Obamacare repealed and welfare recipients to be drug tested. I hear that a lot. I think that's a hot issue. People of Texas have spoken out. It's a roar. In fact, voters are standing in unison and have overwhelmingly approved a variety of propositions that may well send shivers down the spines of supporters of things like universal health care. First on the chopping block is the Obamacare, more common. Okay, apparently 93% of Texans don't take well to having a federal government mandate what they should and shouldn't buy, with a penalty for non-compliance by the IRS. They had a couple other polls on here. A couple other things, but basically you get the point here. 9 out of 10 people in Texas do not like this law, and so Obama said, okay, fine, we'll just go ahead and we're going to do a waiver so that they can keep their existing stuff and not take any action, so that the Democrats that are up for re-election won't have any issues. Pretty smart politically, but annoying as hell from this citizen of the United States. Basically, the law is flawed. I've said many times, I can't find anything positive about it. If I could, I would share it with you guys, and I haven't come across anything yet that's positive, just mainly negative. I've looked on the liberal sites, the right sites, the left, the conservative, and I can't find anything. The middle of the road sites. I'm in the medical industry, and I can tell you it's a nightmare. I have this one. We'll get here. We'll get to that in a second. I'll show you some numbers, and it shows how much more doctors have to pay with this new ICD-10. There is a lawsuit. This guy, he's a fed-up orthodontist, and he's challenging Obama. He's a Florida orthodontist, and he's taken the case against Barack Obama, challenging the president on multiple arbitrary changes to the deadlines of Obamacare law. That's like the arbitrary change that he just put forth to help the Democrats in the election. He represents Judicial Watch out of D.C. The administration has made dozens of changes to the healthcare law, many of which appear to be motivated by politics, particularly with the fall midterm elections in view. The newest change was the subject of reports on Tuesday, which I mentioned to you. The move would relieve the pressure on Democrats who face a backlash from the constituents whose health insurance policies are subject to being canceled just as of the 2014 elections approach. Judicial Watch President Tom Filton called it a pivotal case in terms of reining in Obama's administration's flagrant disdain for separation of powers and the rule of law. So it's starting to get heated up. I wish our politicians had enough backbone not to play politics, not to play, oh, we got to support our Democrats when it's a crappy law, not to play, we got to support the Republicans when it's a crappy law. Just get out there. Listen to the people. The law is not working. I think we needed some type of medical changes, some improvements, and some different legislation. I just don't think this Obamacare is what was needed. I think we could avoid many of these issues if they would have taken their time, read the legislation, voted on it, changed certain aspects of it, and gone through the normal legislative process, right? Makes sense, right? No, Obama wanted to rush it through. The Democrats wanted to rush it through while they could before they lost the Congress to the Republicans, which they did. This is on Glenn Beck, and he's somewhat jovial and joking about this, and he says basically how Americans are richer due to Obamacare. His 2010 health law was responsible for 3/4 of the surprising January rise in U.S. consumer spending and the American income growth. The gains were significant, about 0.4% in consumer spending, 0.3% on the personal income. So exactly what did Obamacare rollout have to do with such a rise? He expanded the Medicaid program. Is critical and highly controversial aspect of the law by adding up to $19 billion in benefits in January. On top of that, healthcare enrollees additionally received another $15 billion in the form of tax credits as a result of the rollout. Together, the two changes have freed up many Americans to spend money on what would have gone towards healthcare premiums, goods, and services. So basically, he's coming in and saying a lot of the lower, because the people that are getting these breaks primarily, or are going on Medicaid are your lower income individuals. The ones that qualify for Medicaid are people that don't qualify for Obamacare. They're being shifted over to Medicaid. Some fall in the middle, like my sister Donna, and she's in the middle and she can't do any of it. But anyways, if they fall on Medicaid, Medicaid's picking it up. Hey, we're good. We're in like Flynn. And then we'll get our tax breaks. Hey, we're in like Flynn. Now I got all this extra money and I can go out and spend it, and that's boosting up the economy. So you got a win-win for Obama. He's getting the demographics, that's particular demographic, the lower income, happy because they got their free insurance, and boom, they got more money in their pockets so they can go out and build up more debt. Because even if you have $60 in your pocket, generally speaking, that demographic's not going to spend $60. They're going to spend $100 and get further in debt. Coding chaos. ICD-10. I know a lot about this because of medical billing and coding. Ever consider suicide by jellyfish? Have you ended up in the hospital after being injured during the first landing of your spacecraft? Or have you been hurt when you sucked into the engine of an airplane, or when your horse-drawn carriage collided with a trolley? Your doctor, courtesy of the federal government, will have to code to record it. Basically, they're going from, 17,000 DX codes, diagnosis codes, to 155,000 under ICD-10, and they get very specific. I'm still waiting for my ICD-10 book. They're all on backlog. This new law, I think, comes in October, and basically they want to track down to the minuscule DX code on exactly what your issue is. Before, you could just say 729.1, a spasm, but now you got to say, okay, it's a spasm. Where's the spasm? What type of spasm? And you got to narrow that diagnosis code down. The transition to ICD-10 was planned long before Congress passed the Affordable Care Act, but Obama's administration officials say it's a critical part of coming reforms. It's the foundation for healthcare reform. The transition will mean decreased productivity, lost revenue, and lost time. Nobody knows what to expect. One healthcare consultant put it this way: it's probably going to be the most painful year we've seen in history in the U.S. healthcare. And I can tell you it is. I mean, I'm dreading it. I'm really dreading it. Not only I'm getting my book, and not only do you got to try to dissect through all these codes. Generally, the clinics and the doctors aren't going to want to deal with it. They're going to pass it on to you, and you're going to need their specific input on a lot of it, which they don't have the time to do. So there's probably going to trigger a bunch of denials based upon the codes, which you see often. Companies like United Healthcare, they love denying if you're not down to the 5th digit on the DX code. Obamacare, that's it, folks. Anyone want to discuss that? 941-584-48 74. Strange. I was getting a lot of calls on my first show when I came back. In the last two shows, nothing. I don't know if it's because the word isn't out there yet, and I got to start that marketing. I thought my marketing was going to start up, and I haven't seen it yet. Which last time I started the marketing, my numbers went from 20 to 90 views to thousands of views. Showdown. This is in Maryland. I've been bringing up Connecticut, how Connecticut wants people to register their guns, and over 100,000 people have now registered guns. So I played a tape yesterday where a lady called the Lieutenant Vance, I think it was, and said, hey, what happens if I don't register my gun? I got this letter saying I need to register it. And he said, well, it could be considered a felony, and we could come out to your house and arrest you. And my first thought was, why do I need to register? If you're sending me a letter, obviously you know I got a gun. This is in Maryland now. Maryland to target 110,000 citizens with gun confiscation. Maryland are set to target 110,000 citizens with gun confiscation under a new law that would link the state's gun registry with a criminal database. With new troopers set to be hired and enforce door-to-door visits on illegal gun owners. Which I don't understand about this is, if they're registered, you go in, you get your gun, and I'm assuming they're taking a registry. Yeah, they're taking a gun registry, right? And they're going to mix it with the criminal database. My thought was when I purchased my gun, they ran a background check on me to see if I had a criminal history. So I'm assuming these people, if their guns are in the gun registry, which mine is, that they check the criminal background. So there seems to be a disconnect there, right? Maryland State Police complain that there's no way for them to identify gun owners who have been convicted of felonies. I don't get that. Again, unless I bought my gun and then I was convicted afterwards, then I get that aspect. New legislation being considered in Maryland House of Delegates would allow police to run checks of the state gun registry against criminal databases at least twice a year, and it's going to cost $300,000 to create the system. So let's say $500,000 because they always lowball it. If you link the databases, they will find 10% of the registered gun owners, about 110,000 people, would be disqualified. More armed police would be needed to conduct dangerous door-to-door gun seizures, confiscations, and of thousands of people that would be snagged under the new law. It's a smack of police-state mentality. And you know what else this does? If I'm a guy with a background check and I know, hey, they're going to be coming in and trying to bust me a felony because I purchased a gun from the store, guess what? I'll turn that damn gun into you, and I'll go out and get it on the streets. I'll go out to an auction. I'll go out to one of these flea markets, these gun shows, and I'll get it there. And then you're not going to know I have the gun, and you're not going to bother with me. So, they do some of the stupidest stuff, and they waste our taxpayers. The common criminal, trust me, is smart enough to do this. If I am, I'm Joe Idiot over here, and I'm smart enough to get by it. Let's see. While the law is ostensibly aimed at disarming criminals, we have seen a steady expansion of reasons that are being applied to bar Americans from owning firearms. And that's basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to get Americans not to get firearms. Last year, we reported on how the U.S. veteran David Schmecker had his guns confiscated by police after forced psychiatric evaluation, despite him having no criminal or mental illness history. But they forced him to take this evaluation. They probably brought him to one of their doctors for the evaluation, and he said, oh yeah, I agree, the guy's unstable, and they took his gun. There's been a lot of people out there are concerned. There's another one here too, another veteran where it happened. A lot of us veterans, myself included, are concerned because they feel that the government doesn't want veterans that own guns. Why? Because we've used them. We've been in the armed forces. Some of us have been in combat, and we're not afraid to use it. There's a lot of stats. I was listening to Alex Jones today, and the FBI put out that I think there's, for every gun owner, there's like 4 less crimes. So it's actually deters crimes. Just talk about governments invading you. One of the things that I can't remember if it was Russia or China, they said one of the biggest hesitations they ever did have or would have to coming into the United States and invading them is the fact that all Americans carry guns, it seems like. And you would have a major revolt. It's hard enough going. It's hard enough. Look at Afghanistan. We're having a hard time there, and not everyone have guns there. So you see how that works. This next one is from Dan Bonino, who actually he left his career in the Secret Service to inform the public on reality behind gun control. His inspiring speech on the subject of how gun control is really not centered around the control of the guns, but the fact that it controls the individuals who carry them. Gun control is really people control. And you know the government, they love to control the masses. Illegally bypass through legislation like the Patriot Act and NDAA are two pieces of legislation that Obama has signed off on. Despite voicing concerns against it when Bush had it. And again, it's all about controlling the masses. Patriot Act with the spying, gun control, and all that stuff. And then you have the Sandy Hook situation. And they use these events to try to gain your control over the individuals. And bloated government can do virtually anything it pleases once it passes these legislations. Today's legislation is being written that ignores the Constitution, from gun control to spy bills to internet censorship and tax hikes. Then we are truly setting ourselves up to lose the Bill of Rights, which we don't want. Like Dan, I was never really a firearms until I realized the importance of the Second Amendment, which comes to our rights granted by the God and the Constitution. Okay, so again, they're trying to infringe upon our Second Amendment right and limit it. How are they limiting it? They're trying to limit it by buying up all the ammo out there. What the heck does the post office need all those rounds of ammo for that they're purchasing? Shortage in the material needed to make the ammos. They're not sure what's behind that. I read up on it and I can't remember, and I'm sorry about that. And they're doing that because they can't get the legislation through to limit our ownership of the guns. Or they're trying to in some of these states like Connecticut and Maryland. Now here's another one, and this is Bloomberg's move to ban pro-gun speech. Facebook, the lovely Facebook, is working with two anti-gun groups to further restrict firearm discussions on various pages in a move that will likely lead to outright censorship. After Mayors Against Illegal Guns, it came out that several, I think 50 mayors left it because they said that their goal is gun confiscation, and they could not be a part of that because it violated our Bill of Rights, the Constitution. Moms Demand Action spent the past month pressuring Facebook to censor gun-themed pages. An insider told the publication that the ongoing talks between the gun control groups and Facebook were progressing. The anti-gun group even produced a video meant to shame Facebook over the issue. It says last month, Mayor Bloomberg exposed the truth that he's out there trying to push for a nationwide ban on guns, hence violating our Second Amendment, which I covered yesterday. Facebook already has a long history of censoring pro-liberty statements and banning users who promote basic human freedoms. Facebook deactivated a Facebook page of the Pennsylvania gun store after the store owners announced an intent to raffle off an AR-15. In 2012, they suspended at least 20 accounts operated by individuals in alternative media during a 24-hour period, claiming they violated Facebook policies, but they didn't state which policies they were violating. That actually happened to me too. So, I covered it yesterday. It's our God-given, it's our constitutional right to have an arm, to carry a gun. And they're trying to take it away. Government's trying to get more control. They want to control the masses. Hitler did this. That's one of the first things Hitler did. Gun control. Let's get control away from these people. And look what happened to many of the gypsies, the foreigners, the Jews, the Catholics. Many of them, I bet, wish they had their guns and didn't give them up. All right. So, that's where we stand on that. The next one, gun confiscation. No, wait. I do have that Secret Service thing. I need to really read my agenda, right? Let me do this. If you're interested in sponsoring the program, any of my programs, my local media news half hour that I do, this alternative media state show here, or any of my Facebook pages, fabbruzzino@yahoo.com. So let's go ahead and watch this one. This is that ex-Secret Service agent discussing exposing the gun control agenda as he saw it when he was at the protecting the president. Hopefully it'll pull up with no commercials. This is from, who's this from? IntelliHub. IntelliHub. All right, here we go. The old bandwidth issue, folks. What do you think about that? All right, here we go.
Now at OfficeDepot.com. This printing supply from Brother will help set your printing.
All right, we got a nice Office Depot commercial. That's always great to have. All right, promoting their product. Let's see. Okay, are we going to go here, folks? Technical issues. Bandwidth is always important when you're out here operating. Hopefully Comcast with its 100 meg will be a lot better than this 50 meg, and because I just don't know if this is going to happen with this video. So let's see. We'll try it one more time. All right, it's not going to happen. Sorry about that, folks. I really wish we could get through this thing. All right. So we're going to continue on to my next subject matter. If that starts up, then we'll go ahead and jump over to it. It happens to be another video. Hopefully bandwidth is going to come in. But this is an interesting story. This is a Mark Dell. He's an officer, and it basically covers how he decided to uphold the Constitution instead of violating the constitutional rights of an individual. So let's see if we can get that video up and going. This is on InfoWars with Alex Jones, and the article is from Adam Salazar. And we're not going to obviously watch the full 12 minutes because that would just be ridiculous. I think this is that bearded dude. He's a little strange.
Tom here with Cummins, Texas. The video you're about to watch is of a encounter that we had with Austin Police Department.
Let's see if we can fast forward from this guy a little bit.
Walks around us, checks us out, food. So I hope you enjoy this. And
all right, here we go. All right.
Just checking you guys out. I already know the law, even though I know you guys.
I got a squash.
I know, I saw that. I was laughing. Did you hear me?
Well, you know why? Because I can't carry my handgun here, so I squash it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know you.
We were just talking. I know. We were just talking to this guy.
Hey, we're good to see you. Thanks for coming out.
Hey, can I have a handshake?
More of us.
Can I have a handshake? Do you mind if I get a picture of you?
Hey, you're already recording me. I don't care.
How about that? The officer doesn't care if you record him, and he doesn't.
PPD is great, brother. Thank you very much.
And he doesn't want to violate their Second Amendment rights. Isn't that great? The right to carry out. All right.
You want to know if it's legal to do this?
All right. So that was awesome. That was a officer that was upholding a constitutional right to. Well, actually, a constitutional right to bear arms, but in that case, it was the right to carry in the city of which city is this? Somewhere in Texas. I know that. I'm thinking for some reason it was in Houston, but I can't recall. All right, so let's see if I got this story. Here we go. Here's that other story.
With StoryLeak.com, and here with a former Secret Service member. Actually featured your video. It's excellent. You said gun control is not gun control, it's people control. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that and what you're here about today?
Well, I think we tend to get lost in the granular arguments, and then you lose the 30,000-foot view. There's an ideological fight going on against individual liberty. Things like private property, bedrocks that, the right to self-protection, the right to spend your own money as you see fit, the right to your own health care. And I think what happens is people get lost in this argument that it's about firearms, it's about guns. It's not. When I gave that speech, the one that a lot of folks happen to see on YouTube, I was clear about that. It's not about gun control, it's about people control. And when you keep that in mind, the gravity of the battle becomes that much more clear. I mean, this is a very serious fight, and you have to know your enemy to know who you're fighting against.
Well, how do you like the fact that I was just talking to some police officers over there? They really did not like it. There's a massive police presence over at the gun rally over there. But here we have, if you could just show the March Against Monsanto, thousands of people, 1,000 or more, are marching down the street right now. Right? They're marching down the street against
There's
Monsanto,
no cops.
and there's no police presence. They don't care. But there's about 50 people left at the gun rally over there with open carry, and they act like it's some type of terrorist event.
I can tell you it's not the rank and file guys. Having been a police officer, what happens is you get into the upper echelons of these departments and the political appointees, and of course there's this police pressure from the top politically to go out, oh, gun rally, this guy's not going to be dangerous. There's probably, 100, 150 guns there. It's the most peaceful place in town right now. Matter of fact, you couldn't be any more safer than in that park right now. But it's not the rank and file cops. Having been a police officer in Secret Service agent, I can tell you the overwhelming majority, 90+% of them, are really strong pro-Second Amendment self-protection. So it's usually the political appointees at the top who wind up bringing down political.
Interesting perspective from this former Secret Service agent.
I actually spoke to some people over there. They're saying military are actually in support of what's going on pro-Second Amendment. Were you speaking today?
Yeah, I did. I just spoke about, 20 minutes ago. And, I gave my same speech about how people control, not gun control. And, I mean it. I can't say to folks enough that if you don't understand the argument, you don't understand your enemy, then you don't understand the fight. You're wasting your time. I mean, this really is a larger ideological fight. Read the works of Thomas Sowell. If you ever want to understand the fight you're in, read Vision of the Anointed. It's a sarcastic title. When he says Vision of the Anointed, he's talking about the people like, President Obama who anoint themselves. But it's a great book, and it'll really put your mind in the right spot.
Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Okay, that was worth waiting to watch. It was rather interesting. Oh, this is on that ICD-10. I'm bouncing all over the place, folks. Well, I got it up here. This is the cost. This is from my company page, Telephonics Medical Consulting, and it has the cost of ICD-10 implementation. Small practice between $56 to $226 million. Medium, $213 to $824 million. Large, $213,000 to $824,000. I don't know where I was getting million. Large, $2 million to $8 million, which is a lot of dineros, huh? So, let me get back to this screen. That was an interesting interview with that Secret Service agent, and well worth waiting to see. I'm sure many of you guys will agree. The police chief. This is in Northport, continuing saga, which I'm continuing to cover. Northport police chief has asked Sarasota County sheriffs to look into the actions of some of their officers this past weekend. They're still keeping mums on the word. 2 officers have been suspended. They do say there's a potential victim and something potentially sexual in nature. So that's happening in a city right down the road here where I do a lot of my local media, and we're going to continue to keep coverage on that story. This is a story I brought you guys yesterday. I didn't have a good video. I got a better video, and I learned a little bit more about this individual. This is the one that was arrested. She says for standing 12 inches off the curb. It says that San Antonio police are notorious for their excessive use of force. Some officers even raping women while on duty. They give a reference point for that. Abby, the individual yesterday, is a law student at the University of Texas in San Antonio. She says, I was initially recording officers setting up speed traps on my phone. She was shocked that they were using so much force, wasting so much force on issuing speeding tickets. She believes she got the officer's attention because she is an African American. First, the officer told her to move myself and bicycle out of the street over the loudspeaker from his car. She says she complied. The second time he approached me in the street and I didn't recognize him, he stated that he previously asked me to move and that it was for a second time asked me to move my bike into the dirt. I told him I didn't want to move my bike into the dirt because I didn't want to get it dirty. She said, first, I know my rights and I knew I wasn't breaking any laws and therefore I didn't have to provide my ID. One of the issues was he wanted her ID, and she's, this law student's like, look, I'm not breaking any laws. I'm just standing here. I'm not giving you my ID. Second, she had a flu and she was in a hurry. She was trying to get, because she was sick. In her mind, hey, we don't live in Nazi Germany. So, let's go ahead and take a look at that video. That was my lovely wife walking across, Lisa. Okay, there she goes again. That's awesome. All right, let's go take a look at that video, folks, of the lady and the bike 12 inches from the curb. And we'll see. What say you on it? This is from the Libertarian. The one I had yesterday was really grainy. This one's actually not bad, although he thinks, she states during her interview with this media outlet that originally the officer thought she had headphones on because she had earplugs in her ear, and he did not realize that she was recording. I think it's down there. There it is. All right, so let's go. Hopefully our bandwidth issues will not cause us any issues here.
A future law student gets a crash course in public safety when she's arrested, she says, for asking questions at a bus stop. Good evening, I'm Deborah Now.
And now I'm Jeff Goldblatt. A 25-year-old UTSA student tells the I-Team police didn't like the way she parked her bike as she waited for a bus. And so an officer hauled her off to jail. Her arrest all caught on video. Joe Conger and the I-Team have more. Joe?
That's right. Abby Kyle is of Nigerian descent. She says police officers referred to her as the Nigerian Nightmare as they booked her into the pokey. She did not tell them, but what they didn't know was that she was actually a student studying law enforcement, and she was actually out there admiring their work.
For 25-year-old Abby Kyle, a criminal justice major, the police speed trap along 281 was fascinating. So she took pictures and began to share them.
I put it on Facebook. I told my friends this is where our funding is going, straight into hard police work. And then later on, what happens?
What happens next puts the UTSA student in shock.
Just arrest me for staying at the bus stop.
I don't want to hurt you.
I'm on my way to the grocery store.
Ma'am, you're going to go to jail. It's going to happen.
Okay.
You're already going to jail, okay?
Okay, well, I'm reporting this. Keep talking.
Abby went from waiting for a bus to riding in the back of a squad car. She says it began when an officer told her to remove her bicycle from the driveway because she was a traffic hazard. Abby says she complied, putting the bike and herself inside the curb of the bus stop. She continued to shoot video with her phone, capturing what she calls harassment.
What's the traffic violation? I'm 12 inches in curb.
Are you not going to do it?
Am I not 12 inches within the curb?
Are you not going to
If you, okay, then what is it? No.
Let me see your ID.
No.
Abby says she was dragged by her hair along with her bike into a squad car, but not before suffering bruises that kept her out of school for a week. And it wasn't just wounds to her body.
I've never been so dehumanized in my life.
Ironically, Abby was once an intern at the Bexar County District Attorney's Office. She may be making a visit to her old office space soon to watch the wheels of justice from a different perspective.
Okay. Sounds like that officer messed with the wrong lady. Again, I'm pro-police. I got my taking cut out of crime and stuff. I like the police. I'm not pro-abuse of power. I don't like certain officers that go out there and abuse their power, which this officer obviously did. The lady was up on the street. She wasn't interfering with anything, and he decided that he was going to take the matter into his own hands in a manner that was not all that professional. This next one, it's on fluoride. Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, fluoride's, it's okay. I want you to just listen to this video. Fluoride is not good for you, folks. I think well, a lot of the public's been fooled on that one. So let's take a quick listen to this video on fluoride. And this is basically on a city. They're taking $2 million of the taxpayer dollars and putting fluoride in the water. Luckily for my city, we're not listening to the full 6 minutes either, folks.
Just for your information, it is a criminal offense to disrupt the public meeting.
Don't you love how city councils do that?
And that kind of behavior, you can potentially be charged.
You can be charged if you do anything that they deem to be disruptive.
And we're going with our discussion. There's a motion on the table. I want to say, following Councilmember Spellman's, we have listened to evidence on this subject for several years. 5, I'll accept 5. We have gone to the trouble to send this item to a council committee and receive testimony from
our health department here at the city. We've heard from other experts. I even asked my dentist, and his answer was
dentist will always say
yes. Fluoride in the water.
Wait until they call the CDC after this short interview.
So I have heard no scientific evidence to the contrary. I'll support the motion.
Once again, City Council had no qualms about issuing another 4-year round of toxic chemicals into the Austin, Texas water supply.
Hydrofluoric acid has shown to have those symptoms, arthritis. I'm 23 years old. I shouldn't have signs of arthritis.
It's corrosive to the skin, eyes, and mucous membranes through direct contact, inhalation, or ingestion.
Dr. Philip Grandjean at the Harvard School of Public Health and Dr. Philip Landergren, a pediatrician at the Mount Sinai Medical School in New York City, commented, "The developing human brain is uniquely vulnerable to toxic chemical exposures, and major windows of developmental vulnerability occur in utero and during infancy and early childhood. The fetus is not well protected against industrial chemicals. The placenta does not block the passage of environmental toxicants from the maternal to the fetal circulation, and more than 200 foreign chemicals."
Hey, that guy's mind's already made up. He's not even listening.
They conclude disorders of neuro.
These guys are probably playing on their Palm Pilots down there, playing some solitaire on the computer.
Births and prevalence of autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit disorder seem to be increasing worldwide.
We're telling you the truth. It's not
Let me fast forward to the one
it's
point.
made up. It's like this is toxic chemical. Water.
Let's see where's it at.
Were cut in half by Mayor Lee Leffingwell in violation of Articles 2527 and 2529.
All right, we're going to try to move forward to the call, which was real interesting.
$80,900 of taxpayer dollars to essentially poison themselves.
Here it is. Poison control, he's calling.
I need to speak to somebody about fluoride. Should I be concerned about my child or myself swallowing this?
If they get more than a mouthful, I would want you to call us. Otherwise, normally we just recommend to have, chew up sometimes or drink a glass of milk because that helps bind up the fluoride.
Okay. Well, I also read that the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, allows this amount in a single glass of drinking water. If my kid drinks more than one glass of water per day, should I call you?
I wouldn't expect so, no. I was going to say I'm not sure.
Doesn't that make sense, though?
Yeah, I know. I understand. Your logic is perfectly, it makes complete sense to me.
The council members are not ignorant of the consequences of water fluoridation. Back in 2011, fluoridation expert Dr. Paul Connett and dentist Dr. E. Griffin Cole presented fact after indisputable fact to the council.
They cited a review in 1993, and as you've already seen, the proposal that fluoridation was coming.
You're basically seeing this with all the cities. I think St. Peter, Clearwater just went through this a year ago, where they're not really looking at the facts out there about fluoride and the potential hazards that it brings. I could quote document after document, doctor after doctor, Harvard study, this study, that study. We could show you like they did where fluoride is harmful. It's swallowed on a toothpaste thing. Yet the government officials, other officials will say, oh, no, it's good, and people believe it. And they call people like myself crazy. Next thing, we're discussing environment right now, if you can't tell. The next one is Dan River. I covered this because of Duke Energy. They basically had this device go bad. It's gone bad in the past. It went bad, dumped, what was the number? 39,000 tons of, or 27 gallons of or 30,000 tons of coal ash and 27 gallons of contaminated water into the Dan River. They knew the device was defective before, and it was defective when this occurred. The alarm didn't go off because that was defective, so they're negligent in that. And then the city, county, state, whichever official is supposed to be monitoring it wasn't monitoring it. Just a comedy of errors here. Basically, though, they said after weeks of downplaying massive coal ash spill, North Carolina regulators issued a violation notice on Monday to 5 more Duke Energy power plants. 2 citations late last week in the site of polluted river, Dan River. The Department of Environmental and Natural Resources described the February 2nd spill as an environmental disaster. I've shown you guys the video where they were just taking up this black slime out of the water. Yet they were sitting there saying, "Oh, the water's fine." Again, say it. People will believe it. They hope not as much information will disseminate out there. I got that problem here with my local government. I always put stuff out there, and they do not like me because I disseminate that information. And for government officials and for people in power, the less information, the better. They can pass their legislation that they want with little bickering from the consumer or the citizen. They say the violations carry potential fines of $25,000 per day. Let's see. Environmental groups are accusing the State Department of Environmental and Natural Resources of ignoring years of coal ash seepage at 32 Duke Energy ash plants. After the agency assured residents that there's no dangers to humans or wildlife, the government agency did that. State health officials warned people to avoid contact with Dan River and not eat the fish. So once again, you got this government entity coming in and saying, "Oh, it's all fine, everything's good. Go ahead, eat the fish, drink the water," and then they come out and say, "Oh, we were wrong." Don't always believe what you hear out there, folks. People aren't always being honest. They're not always being upfront with you. We got one more, and this is on the whip update. This is something that I was talking about on my show the day it happened, a week and a half prior to major media picking it up, and that's the nuclear waste site, which was leaking radiation. They said nobody was down there, everything was secure, and then they come up with 13 people that have been impacted by the radiation. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that, and give me 1 second to hop over there. The whip update, folks. This is over in Texas. What is it? Carlsbad?
The state has set a deadline for the feds to deal with radioactive waste left above ground at the nuclear waste dump near Carlsbad. Drums and containers shipped to the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, or WIP, are typically stored in a parking area and inside of a then brought underground to be placed in salt beds. But the underground dump closed last month because of a radiation leak that contaminated 13 employees. So all of that waste is still above.
So you got all this nuclear waste above ground in a parking lot.
Usually allowed to stay there for a month or two, but the state has extended that deadline to up to 3.5 months. The federal government will have to come up with a plan if the underground dump is closed any longer than that.
So what do you guys think of that? Is that an area you'd want to live in? They're going to, you already had that radiation leak there. I think a week prior to that, they had a fire on one of their trucks. And now they got these storage bins of nuclear waste just sitting out in the parking lot. Isn't that lovely? What say you? 941-584-4874. This is something, I should have pushed this all the way down, and that's on the global conflict and the Ukraine, Venezuela, Israel, Palestinian area, and Syria. Not sure why I pushed it all the way down on my my agenda here, but it's interesting alternative events that have been happening. As you know, the United States is saying we're going to push all kinds of sanctions. Just a reminder to everyone, the United States, through a taped recording of Nolan, the assistant ambassador, she stated on there that they funneled, what was it, $5 billion, I think, dollars into the protesters, and I forget what the exact dollar amount was each. I think I have it in here, but they were basically financially supporting the uprising, fomenting the uprising. Then when the Ukraine government decided to crack down on them, the United States came in and said, "Oh, you can't do that, you can't do that." And now they're complaining to Russia for coming into the Crimea area to protect their interest, an area that they've always had soldiers in, an area that's been part of Russia for the longest time. Many wars were fought over it. On this one, they said, we're going to put all these sanctions against you. And the bear, Putin, said in his house, they said the upper house of Russia parliament is mulling measures to allow property and assets of European and U.S. companies to be confiscated in the event that sanctions are being adopted against Russia. over its threatened military intervention in the Ukraine. The lawyers were currently studying whether it's proposed is constitutional or not, and they also want to drop the euro or the dollar. Russian investments in U.S. government bonds total about $139 billion. Basically, if they do that, our economy is really going to suffer, guys. And guess who's in their corner right now? Who's backing them, saying they're in the right, and who already doesn't like the dollar. They don't like being pegged to the dollar. China. All right. So scary stuff financially. It could hurt us, guys. It could impact us. Russia reminds us of us. Okay. And basically, they said that. Isn't it fascinating how U.S. officials and the mainstream media are able to quickly arrive at a moral judgment condemning foreign interventionism on the part of Russia, while at the same time blocking out their minds all the foreign interventionism on the part of the USA? U.S. aggression against Honduras, Grenada, Nicaragua, Cuba, Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. Ronald Reagan, justification for invading Grenada, that he was protecting American citizens. Let's see, the justification for U.S. invasion in Panama. U.S. national security state officials justified that invasion, which killed many innocent people, with their much vaunted war on drugs. And then there's Iraq. And the article asks, where are your WMDs there, United States? This is interesting. As John Quincy Adams said on the 4th of July address to Congress in 1821, he pointed out that the foreign policy of the United States would be to stay out of all foreign messes. Instead, the American people would devote their efforts to building a free and prosperous society here at home to serve both the model and sanctuary of the people of the world. That's how I am. I'm an isolationist. I don't think we should be out there being the world superpower, spending all this money out there protecting these interests. $5 billion. I could have used $5 billion, couldn't you? Okay, now, and the next thing, I fell asleep there. They're saying a lot of this is associated with the Ukraine and the gas, and then we got the financial crash. Why don't we cover the financial crash issue first? And let me get you that screen, and there we go, and right here. As luck would have it, it didn't work. There we go. All right. This is on how it could impact us with a financial crash if Putin were to drop the dollar and we're not going to get it to play maybe. All right. I don't think that one's going to go. So let's go ahead to our other video, which is on the hidden motives behind the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, which is many believe is the gas. I showed you guys yesterday the gas lines that run through there. There they are right there. We'll see them again. Let's take a quick listen.
The untold secret behind the Russia-Ukraine conflict is that this is part of a broader energy war. Europe and NATO are desperate to end their dependence on natural gas from Russia, while Russia is desperate to maintain its near monopoly on natural gas in Eastern Europe via the largely state-owned Gazprom. Russia supplies 30% of Europe's natural gas, and 66% of that travels via pipelines which run through Ukraine. Russia also supplies 35% of Europe's oil. The fact that Ukraine's former government, led by President Yanukovych, had agreed a trade deal to economically integrate with Russia instead of the EU, which it rejected, would have deepened the EU and NATO's energy dependence on Russia, which is one of the primary reasons why the West contrived this revolt, and now we've had that confirmed via released documents proving that US aid, which is a front for the State Department, the National Endowment for Democracy and other NGOs funded the very protest groups that began the occupation of Kiev back in November. Over the past 2 years, energy giants such as Chevron, Exxon and Royal Dutch Shell had started exploration for new natural gas fields in western Ukraine, as well as other Eastern European countries. And they discovered huge new natural gas fields in western Ukraine and Poland. But they couldn't get the go-ahead to finalize these deals because Putin was leaning on Yanukovych via this trade deal. Now, post-coup, post-overthrow, those barriers are gone and the deals are ready to be signed with the new pro-EU post-coup Ukrainian government. This threatens Gazprom's energy monopoly in the region, which was already under stress from the development of 5 trans-Mediterranean pipelines from Libya, Algeria and Morocco to southern Europe. Obviously, if new natural gas sources are established in western Ukraine by the likes of Chevron, Exxon and Royal Dutch Shell, with a pro-EU government in power, that dramatically reduces Europe's dependence, their reliance on natural gas coming from Russia.
All right, so, like with everything, it's a lot deeper than what you're led to believe. Let's mute this thing if I can. How ingenious. Yahoo does not have a mute button on there, so we have to listen to the entire commercial. But not Jeff. Okay, at least it's an entertaining one, right? A cute little dog there. Guy trying to park in the garage. The wife's in there looking at him like, what kind of idiot are you?
Has the most vehicles on the road with over 100,000 miles. That's the power of Germany.
All right, here we go on the financial crash.
With the threat of war looming in Crimea and Ukraine, investors are fleeing to the safety of treasury bonds. I'm Jack Otter, editor of Barron's.com. I'm here with Mike Nero, who writes our income investing blog. So, Mike, what's going on in the credit world today?
It's similar to what you see happening in stocks. Riskier markets like equities, like junk bonds, are selling off. And it's a fight to safety in treasuries, in government bonds of developed markets, Germany, the U.S., and a flight from bonds in risky emerging markets, particularly the ones that are most geographically and economically connected to either Russia or Ukraine. Turkey, bonds of that region are getting hit.
So this is, of course, often what happens when it's scary geopolitical times. People rush for safety. But you have made the point that there's a broader issue about credit risk that investors need to be mindful of.
Yeah, it's especially tricky when you look at markets like, for example, the U.S. junk bond market, which you wouldn't automatically think that there's a direct connection between, say...
He's getting more technical than many of you guys probably want to hear. So we'll leave it at that. Russia, this is on some facts that I wasn't aware of. It's not out in the mainstream media, and I thought I would share it in regards to their the level of forces they had in the Ukraine prior to this situation. The Ukraine statement at the UN is that 16,000 soldiers were deployed across Crimea, and it sparked a lot of controversy, right? Well, here's they say are the facts. A Russian naval presence in Crimea dates back to 1783. In 1997, amid the wreckage of the USSR, Russia and Ukraine signed a partition treaty determining the fate of the military base and vessels in Crimea. The Ukrainian government gets basically $526 million for Russia to have that base there. The deal allowed Russian Black Fleet to stay in Crimea until 2017. Moscow annually writes off almost 98 million of Kiev's debt for the right to use the Ukrainian waters and radio frequencies. Russian Navy is allowed to have up to 25,000 troops in the Ukraine, 24 artillery systems with caliber smaller than 100 millimeter, 132 armored vehicles, 22 military planes in the Crimea area. 5 Russian naval units are stationed in the port city of Sevastopol. The 30th Surface Ship Division and the 41st Missile Boat Brigade, the 27th Separate Submarine Division, the 68th Harbor Defense, and the 422nd Separate Hydrographic Ship Division. They have 2 air bases in Crimea, in Kacha, and in Gvizhaysky. Russian coastal forces in Ukraine consist of the 1,096 separate anti-aircraft, which is about 2,000 Marines. So, basically, I've seen this before. Basically, all these soldiers that you're seeing over in the Ukraine that are Russian soldiers were basically allowed to be there. And they were there prior to this whole unrest. All Russia did was just put them in, reposition them to better secure and protect their interests, not unlike what we would do and expect our government to do here in the United States. The coup in the Ukraine. The protesters largely bickering about whether or not to join the European Union is what brought this on. There also turned to be, there's a neo-Nazi element in it. Destabilizing basically turned into Ukraine into a war zone. Ukrainian president was ousted prior to fleeing to Russia. Since the new game took over, they've threatened to get nuclear weapons within 6 months. U.S. suspension of future trade economic talks with Russia and suspension of joint military engagements. Gas prices are soaring. And they just basically go through here. Here's where they say they were almost meant to just say, obediently ignoring the $5 million the U.S. State Department, they're talking about the government that's in control now. They were expected to sit there and basically obediently ignore the $5 million the U.S. Department has stolen via taxes. That's us. We should be concerned about that, which we should. That's $5 billion stolen in taxes, via taxes from the U.S. population to hammer down a regime that is yet another country. It was horrible enough to watch Libya, Syria, and Mali, but now it's just getting embarrassing. Many of the Ukrainian protesters were paid $25 a day to protest. And then, as we said, there's a neo-Nazi element there, and the group is called Svoboda, which is a neo-Nazi group. And let's see, here it says, there's ample evidence that the Western supports of protesters in Ukraine, both covert and supported through intelligence ops, as well as diplomatic support through the U.S. State Department, is like Newland. It was confirmed by Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland that the key organization in Ukraine, including the neo-Nazi party of Svoboda, were generously supported by Washington with a $5 billion that they were funneling in. They asked if it could be a connection to the Orange Revolution from back in 2004. Some people think there is. I'm not so sure about that. Why would the West have been pushing the neo-Nazis in power in Ukraine? West wants to destabilize the entire region, and there's, of course, a geopolitical battle between Russia and the West. It wants to, of course, to take the control of the Black Basin. That actually goes into the agreement of 1999, saying the U.S. wants to take control of that. Pretty scary stuff, though. And basically what they're saying about these neo-Nazis, folks, is that the U.S. wanted them in there. We paid all this money to put them in there, and now they're not so sure that they're going to listen to us and be the puppets that we want them to be in there. And I think you guys know this is why is the U.S. spending $1 billion. I got a video. I don't think we need to really play that. Kerry went over there to meet, and he promised a $1 billion package to the Ukrainians. It's a loan guarantee to, as well as technical and financial experts to help the Ukraine Bank and Finance Ministry with financial affairs and help prepare the country for national elections. Rumor has said Ukraine was in the dire financial straits in November. The IMF offered financial assistance to on the condition that they went through some austerity programs, but Russia came in, gave them $22 billion, and it all went to the wayside. So why are we giving them $1 billion? Obviously, this is a country that's very corrupt, major debt. Why are we giving them $1 billion of our dollars? I still don't understand that. We already gave $5 billion to the protesters. They say giving them $1 billion. I see that being even more. I don't know. What say you? 941-584-4874. The other conflict you're not hearing about, Palestinians. Bibi declared war at AIPAC. I didn't quite hear that. We got a little bit of the video, but Palestinians are saying because it was a unilateral declaration of war. Netanyahu says to reiterate his support for the two-state solution, focusing most on the attacks of the Iranian nuclear plant. So he's not understanding why they think that. So let's go to that quick video. And then we'll cover Venezuela because they had another uprising yesterday, which is not getting any major media attention at all. Palestinian's always been a bad area. I think everybody knows that. It's a troubled area. I don't know if we're ever going to see peace in my lifetime out there, and I doubt it. I have my reservations regarding that. Here it is. I think it's a short one too. We got another lovely advertisement. That's always good. The selected content will begin in 31 seconds. Okay, we'll just go back to me over here because we don't really want to see all that crap. All right, Venezuela, they're searching for a solution. Angel Vivas was a little-known figure who had retired from Venezuela armed forces 7 years ago after he refused orders by Hugo Chavez to swear allegiance to Cuba. Inspired oath, fatherland, socialism, and death. Let's see if that commercial's ended yet. I can watch it right here. Here we go.
Jewish state. And in doing so, you would be telling your people, the Palestinians, that while we might have a territorial dispute, the right of the Jewish people to a state of their own is beyond dispute. In recognizing the Jewish state, you would finally make clear that you are truly prepared to end the conflict. So recognize the Jewish state. No excuses, no delays. It's time. I'm charged with protecting the security of my people, the people of Israel. And I will never gamble with the security of the one and only Jewish state. So as we work in the coming days, coming weeks, to forge a durable peace, I hope that the Palestinian leadership will stand with Israel and the United States on the right side of the moral divide, the side of peace, reconciliation.
All right, I didn't hear anything in there stating that it was a declaration of war, unless they're saying that because Israel wants to be considered their own state. It's just craziness over there. Like I said, I don't think we'll see peace anytime soon. I think too many forces, too many powers are in play there. I think we're going to see more of unrest between the Palestinians, Hezbollah, and Iran in that area with Israel. Venezuela, as I said, they had another uprising. I got a quick flick of that shoots that uprising. They have this Angel Vivas. He didn't want to swear allegiance to a Cuba-styled oath. Last month, he was ordered to be arrested by the communist leader that took over after Chavez. His name is Nicolas Maduro. At least 17 people have died in this conflict. He urged, a lot of people are being urged on by the Ukrainian conflict. They think U.S. efforts were taken as examples of imperial interference, and so our diplomats, 3 diplomats, were expelled from there. Chile and Colombia, 2 allies of the United States, are urging that they work together in dialogue. Let's go ahead and watch that video real quick. It's something you just don't see on major media. Again, not sure why. But it's critical. So here we go. This is from Rutgers.
Clashes break out between anti-government protesters and police in Caracas. Footage shows at least one anti-government protester being dragged away by police. Monday's tensions came as jailed Venezuelan opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez urged supporters to continue rallying against President Nicolas Maduro. But there are no signs that the unrest could overthrow Maduro's government or force him to resign. Back in 2002, anti-government activism helped to briefly topple socialist leader Hugo Chavez, who died a year ago from cancer. Similar efforts afterwards failed miserably.
Now, one thing I never understood, and you saw it in the Ukraine, you saw it here in Venezuela, and it almost reminds me of back in 1776 when you would see the redcoats here and the Americans, and we would just stand in front of each other shooting each other. You got protesters there who obviously aren't as well equipped as the government, and they're sitting there going head to head with them, throwing rocks or whatever they can throw back at the government. I gotta think, if I'm a protest leader, I'm gonna be more of a guerrilla warfare in the streets, coming all around, not just going head on with them. Never could understand why they take that approach. The last thing is Syria. No video there, but just talking about it. Syria. This is the Syrian rebels. They're siege refuge camps, and a lot of these people are starving. It says humanitarian aid for thousands of civilians trapped in Palestinian-dominated area of Syrian capital was halted as district came under siege by Islamist rebels despite a long negotiated truce so they could get some food in there. There's about 20,000 people. There's widespread malnutrition and starvation. They've been blocked from food, drinking water, and medical help for months now. The clashes, which were said to be most serious violence to take place in the region in weeks, lasted until Monday morning, seriously undermined the tentative truce that they had in place. Al-Nusra alleged that the Syrian President Assad, government forces, and allies of the Popular Front of Liberation Palestine broke the deal. Al-Nusra claimed that they stood down for humanitarian reasons, but it was only to let a small amount of food to come in. There are no civilians on the streets. They're all in hiding because they're scared for their life. Al-Nusra, considered by Al-Qaeda to be one of the only legitimate affiliated groups in Syria, after repeated attempts by Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Zawahiri to heal rifts in the Islamic State. So that issue continues on. Let me see where our time is. We got time. Okay. Pringles. This is a story I just came across. I thought I had something for this, and it doesn't look like I do, but let's cover that in a minute. Let's do this one. This is on Top Pharma on children vitamins containing aspartame, and I did not realize this. I give my kids the Flintstone vitamins all the time, and as you can see, this article is on. Let me get it up there and over here on the Flintstone vitamins. There's your guy, Fred, Barney, Wilma, all the characters, right? Well, the #1 children vitamin brand in the U.S. contains ingredients that most parents would never intentionally expose their children to. What's going on with Flintstone vitamins, you ask? Go ahead, ask away. Which proudly claims to be the pediatrician's #1 choice. They're produced by Bayer, and they have a shocking list of unhealthy ingredients: aspartame, coloring agents, artificial oxide coal, cupric oxide coal, GMO cornstarch, and other items, other ingredients. How does this impact you, you ask? Aspartame. Aspartame is known to convert into highly toxic methanol, and formaldehyde in the body, linked to over 40 adverse health effects. Cupric oxide. European Union considers this a dangerous substance. Sorry about that. It's classified as both harmful, excellent, and dangerous for the environment. Coal tar artificial coloring agents. It's a side effect of using synthetic dyes is attention deficit hyperactivity. Zinc oxide, used in SPF for sunscreens, dangerous to the environment. Sorbitol. An ingestion of higher amounts have been linked to gastrointestinal disturbance, from abdominal pain to more serious conditions such as irritable bowel syndrome. Fumarate is a toxic that accidental overdose of products contains in this form is the leading cause to fatal poisoning of children under 6. Hydrogenated soybean. Finding hydrogenated oil in anything in the market in kids is totally unacceptable. And then there's GMO starch. I didn't realize all that went into there. Now the other thing is gum, and this is something that I'm trying to get out of. I chew gum like crazy. I haven't had any today. Yesterday I had a couple pieces. I've been trying to get off of it. One, it gives me a headache. I chew so much of it. But I just like that taste. It helps me when I'm hungry. I'll try not to eat. I'm an old guy. I'm fat. I'm trying to lose weight. And then I came across this article, and I've been trying to stop, but it's so addictive that I'm having a hard time. But I'm plugging away at it. Article on it's about chewing gum, and it'll surprise you on some of this. Here's a list of the most common ingredients: sorbitol, I just mentioned that. Glycerol, artificial flavors, soy lecithin, BHT, malic acid. And you're probably saying, well, what is a lot of this stuff? I don't know about this stuff. It's basically, it says, hey, how would you like to chew on some tire rubber and plastic? Because that's basically what you're chewing on when you're eating gum. Aspartame has been linked to all kinds of major brain disease, including Alzheimer's and ALS, a prime contributor to many of the other diseases such as diabetes, multiple sclerosis, asthma, obesity, along with many others. The hydrogenated coconut oil is a process, also creates trans fats, which is known to be very harmful to your health. Titanium toxide is in the colors, and it's a nanoparticle that is very common in sunscreen. And then the sugar alcohol, some even go so far as to say that these products are far worse than sugar and can stimulate weight gain. So just remember that. The next time you're chewing it for fresh breath, instead of doing that, brush your teeth. Let's go to a video. This is on gluten. Oh no, let's do this Coke one. I'll save the gluten one for tomorrow. Where are we at with time? Yeah, I'll maybe save that for tomorrow. All right. This is on Coke, and this is another thing I'm trying to stop drinking. It's very hard. I'm addicted to Coke. We went to Coke out of Mexico, which has got the straight sugar. I'm still trying to stop it. Last night I had maybe 2 sips, but it's hard. It's addictive, and when it's brought to the table. Now I'm trying to, whenever I can, I'll maybe have a small little birra glass of vino rosso, and I'll drink that. And I got used to drinking it in Italy because you want something to drink your meal with. That goes great with my Sunday pasta. It doesn't go great with my hamburger. I see a Coke there, and I want my Coke and a smile. But it says beverage itself is an absolute poison to human metabolism. Coke is very close to the acidity level of battery acid, and consequently, it can clean the surface equivalent to and often better than many toxic household cleaners. People who consume soft drinks such as Coke have 48% increase in heart attacks and stroke risk. It's associated with lung and breathing disorders, including asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The combination of Coke causes calcium loss in bones through 3-stage process. So basically softening your bones, it goes on to much more issues that you can have here. When you use Coke, it can remove grease stains from your clothes, including fabric, removes blood stains out of clothing, cleans stains from garage floors. So acidic, there's nothing good about Coke at all, folks. Very addictive, not good for you at all. And if I can recommend weight gain alone, how many people stop drinking Coke and the weight gain goes to the wayside? So that's my beef with foods. 941-584-4874 on the call-in number. This is on teleportation. My son's on scientific, and that's what I thought. However, they're saying there's new developments in the quantum theory. Professor Rainer Blatt, they're successfully able to perform teleportation atoms for the first time, transfer key properties of particles to one particle to another using no physical link. Another study, which was published by a team of University of Queensland's physicists in the Natural Journal in 2013, said successful teleportation with solid-state systems, again, quantum information, capable of transmitted from one place to another without physical carrier information. Quantum teleportation has been replicated by numerous scientists all over the world. So I didn't think it was happening. It's starting to happen. People where they can teleport you from one position to another. I always wanted to be a jumper. Did you ever see that movie, The Jumper? He was able to go from here to a bank in Rome, steal everything, and then come back home, and he was rich. Gotta love that. Spying, I wanted to hit a little bit on privacy issues. I'm starting to mix it up as I do at the end of every show because privacy is always a concern. One thing here, FDA, and this isn't really on the consumer, FDA spying may have broken whistleblower laws 2 years after press reports revealed that the FDA has extensive monitoring communications by some of its employees. The agency overstepped its authority and may have broken laws. Hold on one second. Okay. FDA launched a surveillance program to monitor employees who contacted legislators concerning the agency's medical device approval process. You know what? The more and more I hear about the FDA, the more and more I am concerned about this government entity. They have a lot more control and power than I would have ever thought with the research that I'm doing out there. The next thing, let's go into the government spying on us via webcams. Let's check out this video real quick. Where are we at? Here we are, because I'm jumping all over the place, folks. Hopefully this will pull up. And we got another lovely advertisement from Netflix. Look at that. Well, we can skip it. Good. Let's go ahead and skip that, baby.
The National Spying Agency, the NSA, Security Agency, not the spying agency, spied on millions of people on their webcams during their private, often intimate, sexually explicit webcam chats with each other, and recorded still images of millions of people and then ran them through facial recognition scanners to identify them. Oh, I thought the NSA targets terrorists. No. Thank you, Edward Snowden, the gift that just keeps on giving. The gift that can't be ignored by the mainstream media anymore. Although, has any charges been filed? The NSA really needs to be charged with about 1 billion counts of felony crimes. In this case, the NSA was used by the GCHQ. That is British, Brits basically their NSA. It's the Government Communication Headquarters. So that is the England equivalent of the NSA. And they, through Operation Optic Nerve, just wiretapped illegally everybody using, Yahoo web chat, and then took still images of them, and then ran those images through facial recognition scanners to identify everybody. Yeah. Oh, I thought you didn't have anything to hide. Oh, I thought that the NSA wouldn't be tapping you or spying on you, if you didn't talk to any terrorists. Well, wrong answer. Wrong answer. I mean, let me point to you again to the case of Miss Teen USA having her webcam hacked into just by one of her high school classmates, who then tried to extort her, who turned out to be a beauty queen. She didn't take pictures of herself and send them to her boyfriend. No, the psycho hacker just hacked into her webcam, and that's exactly what the National Spying Agency did to at least 1 million users in the United Kingdom over a 6-month period alone. Edward Snowden just documented just 6 months. Oh, dating back.
All right, so you get the gist there of what's happening. A lot of people think it's just a conspiracy thing. Sorry, someone just sent me a text. They're watching the show and they're commenting about my Flintstone thing. Tom Rogers, that's the man. All right, thank you, Tom. A lot of people thought it was a conspiracy thing. Hey, people, you can't watch someone through the cam. Yes, you can, people. It's been going on forever. They have it. I did a story yesterday about the smart box, how they're using that to monitor what you're watching if you're at home with the type of use of electricity and all that stuff. It's been verified. It's been documented. It's on record. Smart cable boxes. A lot of those boxes have microphones and cameras in them. A lot of people doubted that. Again, it's been proven. It's on record. Now they're doing it with the webcams, with the phones, iPhones, and everything. All documented, all on record. Our privacy is being slowly stripped away from us. Slowly being stripped away from us. I mentioned I get upset and people think I'm a freak because they have cameras now at our local Centennial Park, at the rest area, and at the jetty and at the pier. They're not real time, and an individual public works has access to it and they view it, not the police department. So basically they're saying their justification was what they always use. It's for your security. How's it for my security if it's not real time? If you're not viewing it unless something's stolen there, how do I know you're not just viewing it? They got these little signs you can barely read up there saying you're being photographed. How about if I don't see it and I'm sitting there having an affair with Susie Q and you got it on film? Next thing I know, a public work guy says, hey, that's the Venice Scoop dude. I don't like some of the communications he put out about me. I'm going to go ahead and put this picture out there, and or I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, Venice Scoop dude, go ahead and do this for me, give me X amount of dollars, or we're publicizing this. So I'm not a huge fan at all, as they take a little bit more away of my privacy. Another issue, Michigan Township to put cameras up in every neighborhood. This township is called Ypsilanti Township in Michigan. They are working with police to put surveillance cameras in every single neighborhood, placing multiple cameras throughout the city's West Willow neighborhood several years ago. The program's vast success, which is reportedly centered around one single case, warrants an expensive rollout of every neighborhood. One case. That's their success. Let's go ahead and put financial burden on all these taxpayers and roll out these cameras everywhere, taking away their money, financial, their tax dollars, using that, and taking away their privacy. Let's see, Mike Radzik, the director of the Office of Community Standards, justified the program by claiming that the cameras were no different than police officers constantly standing in the neighborhood. The township claims the program will cause a major dent in the criminal activity. However, studies have proven that the surveillance cameras do little to deter crime. So much for your safety, right? Let's check out that video, folks. All right, this is off InfoWars and from Mikhail Phelan on February 28th of 2014. Let's see if we can get it up here. Here we go.
New tonight, a community stepping up to fight crime. Ypsilanti Township is using surveillance cameras in neighborhoods to try to keep the heat on criminals. And the program is so successful, they're now looking to expand. Will Jones shows us how it works.
Right now, there are 10 security cameras in certain communities. Township leaders want them up at every turn as soon as possible. For the last few years, there's been another set of eyes looking over the West Willow neighborhood in Ypsilanti Township, providing those who live here, like Tony Slaughter, an added sense of security.
When putting security cameras up, I kind of thought that crime would decrease. I mean, to be honest, I thought crime would decrease. It kind of has, in a way.
Township leaders say it's a good crime fighting tool. It's helped police track down a sexual predator.
That's a good plus, sexual predator.
Every neighborhood. Mike Razik, the director of the Office of Community Standards, knows for some neighbors it's a hard sell because of privacy concerns.
We're recording images that a police officer would see if he or she were standing in that same place. They're only public places.
That police officer standing there, guess what? I'm not going to do some stuff that I would do in private.
The township will invest in the infrastructure to actually put the cameras out and deploy them. And then there would be a special assessment on the homes in the neighborhood.
And who's viewing these cameras? Who's watching them? Who's observing them?
A very nominal fee for this measure of public safety.
And they're selling it on public safety.
This neighborhood, something else is a warning to criminals to stay away. In Ypsilanti Township, Will Jones.
Now it's funny that I mentioned those cameras out here in Venice, and they're not real time. It's easy. You can see where the cameras are, and you can easily go up there as any criminal mastermind. Just go up there and spray paint it or knock it down. Nothing's going to happen because it's not real time, and go in there and do whatever you want. So it's a little ridiculous, a waste of money in my eyes, but such is life. I'll continue to fight the good fight at the local level through my Venice Scoop media outlet, Northport Scoop, Inglewood Scoop, Take a Bite Out of Crime, and all those different media outlets, in addition to trying to fight the national fight as I go on. Once again, I didn't have enough time to cover everything. Just imagine when I start getting phone calls in again, like I used to before I took the break. I'm really not going to have any time. So I still had some material here, which I'll put to the side, and we'll try to cover tomorrow during our show, 3 to 5 live. If you want to sponsor the program, either my local half-hour local media show or this 2-hour alternative media show, or any of my Facebook Operation Media Operations, give me a call or email me at any of my Facebook pages or fabbruzzino@yahoo.com. So for Francesco Abbruzzino in this worldwide broadcast of the Francesco Abbruzzino Live Talk and News Show, that's all I have for you folks. Everybody have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.